Morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, March 19th, 2014, the last day of winter, thank goodness. There's a press conference going on in the U.S. Justice Department in Washington, D.C. right now. Apparently, it is the announcement of the resolution of a settlement between the Toyota Motor Corporation and the U.S. government. According to sources, the settlement will include over $1 billion in fines and payments made by Toyota. This is stemming from its handling of consumer complaints over unintended vehicle acceleration. The deal will include a deferred prosecution agreement. It follows a 4-year investigation by American authorities. Toyota faces hundreds of lawsuits over these acceleration problems, which gained public attention after deaths on a California highway, and then were subsequently followed up by other examples throughout the U.S. Well, this is the perfect storm forming. The state of Florida is apparently on the verge of deciding that it will not, repeat, not buy $1.5 billion of private reinsurance to supplement its exposure against hurricane peril. The plan, which had been put forward by Florida Hurricane Cat Fund Chief Operating Officer Jack Nicholson, has been slammed as insane by state legislators. It was not approved to be considered by the Florida cabinet yesterday. Time may be running out if they're going to get it in place by July 1st. It's unlikely that they will. The problem associated with this is that the Cat Fund currently acts as a low-cost reinsurance mechanism that Florida insurers buy from to help them with claims that come up after storms. Since there have been no storms recently, the 1% increase overall that would be caused by the purchase of the $1.5 billion in private funds means that there will be a slight assessment of about 1% for all policyholders. The alternative is, in the event of a major hurricane, there will be a huge assessment that will have to be made against all Florida policyholders once the Cat Fund is exhausted. As the head of the Chamber of Commerce said, thanks to the plan to junk the $1.5 billion, this is going to become a big problem later, because the state's taxpayers are going to have to pay considerably more. The Financial Conduct Authority in England has fined London-headquartered wholesale broker Besso about £315,000, that's about $600,000 US, for failing to put adequate checks in place against bribery and corruption. The FCA found a weak control environment surrounding the shared use of commissions with third parties. Despite receiving 2 visits from us, they said Besso continued to fail to install proper systems and controls in place to counter the risk of bribery and corruption in their business activities. That big IPO that's going on in Lloyd's concerning Brit Insurance is really going to go off with a pop. The IPO is expected to come within the next 10 days, and according to the investment bankers details were circulated to Bloomberg last night, the initial price range is likely to give the initial market cap at somewhere up to $1.8 billion US. This would be as high as a 1.7 multiple of trailing revenue, much higher than what had been expected at 1.3. There's an interesting situation regarding Malaysia Flight 370. The first part is that there's absolutely no news regarding the plane. There's speculation that's rampant. Today's speculation centers on the possibility that a cargo hold shipment of lithium-ion batteries may have somehow exploded and caused the fire, which then caused the pilots to try to do anything they could to avoid and to save the plane, including raising the altitude up to 45,000 feet in an hope to extinguish the fire by depriving the fire and presumably then the passengers of oxygen. There's no new news on the technical front as to what may have happened. What is happening is that Malaysia itself, a very, very diverse country of Muslims, Hindus, Taoists, and Christians, may be coming together. There have been a number of interfaith services which would have been unthinkable just 2 weeks ago. The country seems to be pulling together in response to the shared disaster. And in fact, the social commentators in Kuala Lumpur are saying that this could be the silver lining. It's another example of what happens with globalization when things happen to unite an overall group of 78 million people. There's been some developments in the Crimea. Apparently, the Russians have seized the Ukrainian naval base in Sevastopol, all without a shot. The Ukraine government in Kiev has dispatched the defense minister to Crimea to investigate. The Crimean government says they won't allow them to land because they're a sovereign nation now and no longer part of the Ukraine. Well, here's an interesting story. We should have known this, I suppose, but we didn't. But Al-Qaeda has a magazine. It comes out every quarter. The quarterly release that came out this month is calling on terrorist affiliates to detonate car bombs in U.S. cities. The magazine is called Inspire Magazine. Last year's issue that came out at this time called for an attack on the Boston Marathon and included precise instructions as to how to construct and detonate pressure cooker bombs, which were in fact used. The Springs edition urges jihadists to target heavily populated events such as political rallies and sporting events both in the U.S. and abroad. Choosing the place and time is a critical factor to your success in any operation, the article says. You know the enemy better, you're within. The important thing is that you target people, not buildings. It's been suggested to potential targeters, that they look at targeting holiday seasons such as Christmas and New Year's Eve. They also noted some specific targets, including the Willis Tower in Chicago, military bases in Northern Virginia, and soccer stadiums in Great Britain, especially during Premier League matches. Here's some other advice from the magazine. Disguise yourself during the operation. Appear fat. Add some clothes on you. Change your complexion. Use any mask. Believe me, embarrassment is the last thing you'll think about. Wear a mask suitable for the Christmas festival, such as white beards on December 25th. All in all, be creative. The issue also contains extremely detailed, absolutely simple instructions as to how to build a bomb. Well, unbelievable. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.